Hello everyone, welcome back to another part in this Call of Duty style loadout tutorial series. Today we're going to take a look at how we can create our filtered list of all the weapons when the weapon gets selected. We're also going to improve on the UI a little bit and also create some functions to be able to recognize different button clicks based on the actual weapon types. Once again, folks, we're really close to 1,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you could take that one moment to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're already a member, welcome back again, and let's get into the video. Let's go to our loadout system folder, go to UI, and let's create a new UI. W underscore weapon select underscore UI. So the first thing I'm going to do here is set this fill screen to desired on screen, and then search for a size box, and then put it on here. Select the width and the height. The width, we want it like something like 500. Maybe a little bit too much here. Let's do like 350. And then the height, we're going to make it like 150. 100 looks good. Inside of here, we want to have a horizontal box. So drag and drop an horizontal box in there. Select the horizontal box, and then let's look for an image. And then put the image in the horizontal box. And then also, let's grab a text. Drop the text into the horizontal box as well. The text, we're going to go ahead and put this as weapon name. And we're going to also go ahead and center it. Again, in your game, you can add more levels and different aspects of it in here. For now, I'm just going to put in the weapon name. And for the image, we're going to go back to our content drawer, loadout system, portrait. We have the portrait of different weapons. I'm going to take this RT portrait and I'm going to just drop it in here. And this, I'm going to select fill, and that will size it down. I'm going to select this horizontal box, right click on it, and then I'm going to wrap it with a border. I'm going to select the border, and then the brush color of the border, I'm going to make it a nice dark tone grayscale. And press OK. I'm going to select the image, and let's go ahead and set this image as weapon underscore img. Make sure it's a variable. And the text name as well, let's make this weapon name underscore text. Make sure it's a variable. Compile and save. Go to our graph. We're going to add in a new variable, and then name this s weapon info. This would be our weapon structure, so we can search for s underscore weapon info, and then we should have that. Let's make sure this is instance editable and also expose on spawn. We're going to drag our weapon image and then also our weapon text. Weapon image, we're going to drag off of it and say set texture from set brush from texture. And then set name, we're going to drag off this and say set text, and make sure you're setting the text with the text in the bracket. And next, we're going to drag this S weapon info, drag off of this, and then break. And this will give us our name, the mesh, the portrait. The portrait, we're going to go ahead and plug this in here. And the name of the weapon, we will go ahead and plug this in here. Let's connect our event construct and then select the break weapon info and then hide all the unconnected pins. Save, and we can close that. Now that's it for our actual weapon box. We can go ahead and close this. Now we need a place to put that weapon select UI box in. So we're going to create a new user interface and then select widget blueprint, user widget, and name this W underscore weapon select. This first one, I'm going to quickly rename this, and I'm going to say W underscore weapon select underscore box. This way I know which one's the box and which one is the actual weapon select, just to keep it different. Again, this is just simple generic names that I'm using. In your game, you would use specific names as you would like. So in our weapon select, we're going to first add in a canvas panel because this is going to take our entire screen. So in this canvas panel, what we want to have is we want to have a filter here for all the different type of weapons that we have in the game. And then also we want to have a box here that's going to have a container per se, and then that's going to have all the weapons from our selected type. So first, we're going to do our box with all the weapons. So we're going to first create the size box and put it into the canvas panel. Select the size box. Let's set the anchors to the entire left side. Reset the size X. And then I'm going to now extend this out. Let's bring this down from up here, this, and then also let's give it a lot of room here. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the anchors. So go ahead and move the anchors in place. And now inside of this size box, what we want to have is a vertical box. And this vertical box, we're going to go ahead and name it as our weapon underscore container. Make this a variable. Compile. Inside of this vertical box, we want to have a wrap box. Now this wrap box is going to be our weapon container underscore wrap. So inside of this weapon wrap, we want to now go ahead and search for that W underscore weapon select box that we created. And then we want to try and put it in there to see how it would look. So let's select our wrap box and then go here under horizontal alignment. Let's set this to center. This is how you would get it. Now if I were to go ahead and copy and paste a couple, you'll see how multiple weapons actually shows up like this. Now what we also want to do is in this wrap box, the inner slot padding from top to bottom, we want to have some sort of a padding. So I'm going to put in like a 5 padding. So it creates that little gap in between all the weapon slots so it doesn't look like it's clustered. If you have more weapons, you can make this into a scroll box instead of a wrap box, or you can put a scroll box inside of a wrap box, and you can have a scrolling option here. We don't have too many weapons, so we're going to go ahead with this. So this looks good. Now we want to have all the different type of weapons here. So for that, we're going to go ahead and add in another size box. We're going to add it to the canvas panel. And this size box, we're going to move it to the center here. And then also the anchors, we're going to move this anchor to the top portion here. And then we're going to stretch this out. In here, I'm going to add in a scroll box. This will allow me to scroll anything and everything that I add in here. So now I'm going to add in some buttons. My first button, I'm going to add it. I'm going to select this button and I'm going to make sure that it is aligned on the left side. And then also I'm going to go ahead and then grab a text and then put it in on top of the button. This text will read assault rifle. We're going to leave it white and we're going to leave everything as it is. And then the button, we're going to go ahead, the background color, we're going to make it 0. So we have a nice little button. Now I'm going to select this button and then I'm going to name this as AR underscore BTN. So I know this is the AR button. I'm going to select this button and then I'm going to scroll down until I see on clicked and I'm going to go ahead and click on this on clicked. What this will do is it will create a function inside which I can use to filter out the list of weapons that I am creating based on which button is being selected. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select this AR button, right click on it, duplicate it. So now I get a second button. And then this one, I'm going to name this as our SMG. So I know this is going to be my SMG filter. And this text will read SMG as well. And then now if you notice, when you select the actual button, the thing's moving up and down. That's because the scroll box is set to vertical orientation. We need to make this into a horizontal orientation. And now you get your 2 boxes left and right here. So now same thing, I'm going to go ahead and then get rid of this _1 and right click on the SMG button, duplicate it. And then now I got myself the LMG. I'm going to go ahead and rename this from SMG button. I'm going to name this to LMG button. And then inside of it, the text, it's going to read LMG. After this, I'm going to copy and paste again. And then this time around, this is going to be reading as shotgun, a shotgun button. And the text inside will read shotgun as well, just like that. And then again, if you have different type of weapons, you would just duplicate for more. I'm going to duplicate last one, and this one would be for our sniper rifle. So I'm going to name this SR underscore BTN. And the text inside would be reading sniper rifle. So those are all of our buttons that is selected up, created up there. And then as I select one of them, I'm going to go ahead and create that on-clicked functionality here. And I'll do the same thing for every single one of them. On-clicked. Shotgun, I'll do the same thing as well. On-clicked. And here, I'm going to go ahead and do an on-clicked. We want to now create a filter function so that whenever I select individual buttons, it's going to filter out the list based on the weapons that we have. So to filter the actual weapons, we need to have some sort of a system or some sort of a variable that defines what weapon is what. Now in our weapons database, if you remember, we actually created a weapon class, and then the weapon class is actually assault, SMG, and such. And this is exactly what we're going to be using to create that filter. Let me show you how that is done. So in here, we're going to go ahead and create a new function. The function would be filter weapons by class. First, we're going to select our filter weapon by class function and then do an input. And this input, we're going to name this as class. And we're going to be selecting E weapon class. This is what we're going to be selecting as our input. Now, if you remember in our data sets where we created our weapons, we created this E weapon class in the past, and this was indicating whether it's an assault rifle, SMG, LMG, and such. And this is the exact thing that we'll be using here. So what we're going to do is, after this, we're going to say get data table row names. This is a plural. So we're going to do a quick shortcut here. You can create a new variable here, but there's an easier way. So I just drag off of this array and then I say promote to variable and I immediately delete it. This will give me the actual variable with the type name and array. It's a simple shortcut. You don't have to use it, but I like it. We're going to say weapon filter underscore array. This is how we're going to name it. Before we connect to this data table row, we want to drag in this weapon filter array, and then we're going to do a clear node. This way, every time I run this filter function, this weapon filter will always be empty when it starts, and then it gets filled with the necessary information that it needs to be filtered. So only the filtered information will be in this array. So the data table, I selected the weapon data, drag off of this and say for each loop. We're going to drag off of this element and say get data table row. Connect the loop body, select the weapon data, and I'm going to drag off of this out row and say break and expand this. And now we have a weapon class in the weapons info, and also we're sending in a weapon class. So we want to check if both the class are the same. If the weapon class and the class sent in by the function are the same. If they are, then that's our filter. To do that, we're just going to drag off of this weapon class and say equal, and then drag off of this assault rifle, and we're going to say get class. What this will do is it will get that class that's being sent in. It's the same thing here. It's exactly the same as just like, dragging this over. Instead of having this big long connector, we're just going to get to this. Now press B and then click to get a branch. Connect this branch to the row found. And if it is true, if the weapon class and the class that's sent in by the function are the same, we want to take our weapon filter array, and then we're going to go ahead and say add unique. Connect this to the true, and this item would be our array element. This is what we're looking for. We're going to go ahead and connect this there. Now, off of completed, we want to now do a return node, and then drag in your weapon filter array, say get, and then drag this array into this return node. You will get this green check mark. Just release, and then you will actually add that as an output. Now to utilize this filter function, I'm going to go to our event graph, and then I'm going to also create a new function here. This would be our create children. And this create children is going to have a input. This would be of type name. And this would be of type array as well. Back to my event graph, I have the AR button. First, what I can do is I can go ahead and do the filter weapons by class, and I'm going to select AR rifle. And the create children, I'm going to drag it, and then I'm going to connect it here, and then connect this array to this name. Now drag off of this name for each loop. Drag off of this array element and say get data table row. Connect this in here. And then now look for the weapons data. And off of role found, we're going to go ahead and say create widget. Now this widget will be our weapon select box. And as soon as you select that, remember we made our S weapon info instance editable and expose on spawn. That's why you have this option here. This out row, we're going to connect it directly into that. And also one thing that we want to do is we want to get our weapon container wrap here. This is where we're going to be putting all our weapons. And then we're going to first do a clear children. Again, same idea. You don't want this container to keep building up with SMGs and ARs and stuff like that. We only want this to fill with single types of weapon. So here, once we select this box widget, we're going to go ahead and then drag this wrap in here. And we're going to say add child to wrap box. Connect the execution pin from the create widget and also the return value to the content. Now what this will do is it will go ahead and it will create the children inside of the wrap box. So in our event graph, you can see assault rifle, we have this setup. I'm going to go ahead and copy these two functions and then put it on the event construct. This way, when we first open this loadout select or weapon select, assault rifle will be the first ones that's in there. Now I can go ahead and then copy this and then paste it down here. And then this one, I'm going to make this into an SMG. Same thing down here, connect it. And this would be our LMG. That's our LMG button. This would be our shotgun button. And this would be our sniper rifle button. Compile and save. We had a button for our primary. So when that button gets clicked, right now we are sending out the notification as notify scene on clicked. And if you look at the function, is only getting the loadout scene and it's sending out that function as clicked. What we want to do is we want to send this notification to the UI as well. So we're going to go ahead and pull this back a little, and then we're going to do a sequence. Press S on your keyboard, and then when you click, you will get the sequence. On then 0, we're going to send this. And then 1, we're going to go ahead and say get all widgets with interface. And this would be our BPI loadout interface. And then we're going to go ahead and send this out. So we're going to copy this on UI clicked. And this found widget, we're going to connect it to the target. And then this class, we're going to connect it in here as well. This will notify all the widgets now as well. So now back in our content drawer, we can go to our pause menu. And then in the graph, we can actually go down here and then go to our interfaces. And then we can right click and then implement this event. Now this function will fire every time a button is selected, because now when the button is selected, both of these classes are going to be notified. So this will be notified as well. So what we want to do is when the weapon is selected, what we want to do when this event triggers is that we want to get rid of our loadouts, which is actually going to be on our screen, out of the screen, and then also create our small widget, our canvas widget, and then put it on top of here. So for that, first what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hide our loadout container. So this loadout container that we have, as soon as this event gets clicked, we want to get our loadout container, get loadout container, drag off of it and say set visibility, drag off of this and then set the visibility to hidden. So this will hide from the screen as soon as this button gets selected. Once that is done, we also want to reuse this back button. We don't want to create a new button. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and then create a new variable. Is weapon select open. We're going to select, we're going to do that. And once every time the weapon box gets selected, we want to go ahead and set this to true to notify the game, hey, the weapon select is actually open. So here we have our back button function. So when it's clicked, we're going to play animation in reverse, move left, loadout, and such like that. So here we're going to go ahead and check if weapon select is open. So we're going to get weapon select is open, and we're going to do a branch here. If weapon select is open, we don't want this to happen. So only when weapon select is closed, we want the back button to play the move loadout and stuff like that back into place. And if the weapon select is open, and if someone clicks the back button, we want to bring the loadout container visibility back. So here we're going to go ahead and then set our visibility to visible here. I just want to go through it again one more time. When the button gets collected, when the weapon gets selected, we want to go ahead and get rid of our loadout container and then also notify that the weapon select is open. And on the back button, if the weapon select is not open, then we want to utilize it for going through custom loadouts and then into the loadout screen. And then if the weapon select is open, then we want to go between, loadout screen and the weapon select box. So it's kind of like multi-use for the back button. You'll see how that works in just a moment as soon as we get this done. We're going to take this button and then we're going to also hide it because we don't need that button anymore because that place is going to now get filled up with the assault rifle and all of the other names. So we're going to go and take a button 147, get button 147, and then also set visibility to hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. And go ahead and plug this 147. Let me show you how that looks in game. So if I go ahead and press play, press T, I press loadout, this shows up. Now when I click on the actual loadout, you see how this loadout box shows up. If I press the back button, everything goes well. If I select the loadout and if I select the weapon, I want my entire screen to go dark. Now if I press the back button, you see how the weapon comes back. And now if I press the back button, I need to set this to false, but it works as intended. So now in this screen, we want to now create a new widget. And this would be our weapon select. Owning player, we can actually put in get player controller. And this return value, we're going to go ahead and say add to viewport. Here, we're going to take our weapon select open in our back button function, and then we need to set that as false. And this is why it didn't work the previous time. Now you will see it. So if I go ahead, if I press play, I press T, go for loadout, select our loadout. You see everything is working fine. Now you select our weapon. You see our assault rifle, SMG, everything shows up. None because we haven't really defined this yet. If I press the back button, you see how the actual loadout box shows up. And if I press back again, the proper loadout's working. We just need to destroy this widget when we select that back button. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me drop this down a little bit here. And then also, before we add this to the viewport, let's get a reference of it. So I'm going to drag off of this, and then I'm going to go promote to a variable. And then I'm going to name this W underscore weapon select underscore UI. This is our reference, and then now I can go ahead and add this to viewport. And when the loadout container, when the weapon select is open and we press the back button, we want to go ahead and then remove this from parent. So get our weapon select, and then here we're going to go ahead and say remove from parent. So there you go. So that is connected. How that works is if I go and press play, T, loadout, custom loadout, if I select AK-47, there's the AK-47. If I select SMG, there's my SMG, LMG, shotgun, and sniper rifle. And if I have multiple of the same weapons, if I go to my data table, and if I go ahead and right click and duplicate this a couple times, right? And then the SMG, I'll duplicate it. And if I now go ahead and press play, T, loadout, select it. Now I have the 3 different weapons. I have 2 SMGs, 1 LMG, 2 different shotguns. Now I can press back and my loadout is now back again. And one more thing is that in our pause menu, where we go and set this to invisible, into hidden, we're going to go ahead and then set this to visible again up here. Where we remove from parent, we already do the loadout container here. The only thing that we missed is the button 147. We're going to drag the button 147 in here now. So I think this is a good spot for us to stop our tutorial here. It's a pretty long one, sorry about that. We're nearing the end of the series. In the next series, I'll show you how you can select the weapons from that drop-down list and then update your actual loadout scene and your UI with it as well. And then that would be coming close to the end of our series here. And again, if you enjoyed this series, please do let me know in the comment section. If you would like to see something else different, let me know and I will be more than happy to make a tutorial series if that would help your game. Once again, thank you very much for stopping by and I'll catch you on the next one.